here has ever watched a movie and at the end felt the incredible joy that only comes from having watched something fantastic? For me, it was when I watched Zootopia. Who else here has a favorite movie? Want to share it?
Inception.
That's a great movie too. Anyone else? Yeah, Cole?
The Shining.
Those are great movies too. Now, have you ever considered how many people, how much time, and how much effort it takes to produce those movies that make us feel that great? Hi, I'm Durand, and I'll be talking to you about the process of filmmaking. Once upon a time, this cat fell in a forbidden love with this dog. You see, their families were enemies, one more powerful than the other, and their feud dating back centuries ago. But this didn't stop them from becoming friends. And also, this random dragon lived in a super tall castle and ruled over all the land. This is an example of one of the many productions my sister and I created as kids. As you can tell, I've been into directing, storytelling, and creating characters since I could talk. When I was about 9, I got into theater, but despite enjoying acting in many plays, including here at IPS, over time I became more drawn towards learning how films and shows are made. This all started because I got obsessed with a show on Netflix that you may have heard of. It's called Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you how many times I've rewatched this show. I can repeat every line flawlessly. From watching it over and over again, I started to notice small mistakes and differences in shots and camera angles. This curiosity about what happens behind the camera is what inspired me to research the whole process of filmmaking from idea to premiere. As this is a huge topic, I'll be narrowing my focus to be primarily looking at the film process through a director's perspective and through my own experience making a short film. Making a movie is a massive undertaking. My goal is to express that filmmaking is more than just the finished product. It is an amalgamation of the efforts of so many talented individuals. Let's start from the beginning. No, not the beginning of the movie, but before that. The pre-production. What is pre-production? Pre-production is a work done on a film before the full-scale production begins. In other words, it's preparing for the filming. This includes script writing, casting, location scouting, storyboarding and shot listing, and more, like getting equipment and hiring a crew. But unfortunately, I can't cover the rest of that in this presentation. Wait, before any of that can happen, we need to go even further back, all the way to the idea. All films begin with an idea. When creating a film, you need to have a clearly developed concept of the story you want to share. Many screenplay writers take inspiration from interesting real-life events or from things they've personally experienced. They can also gain inspiration from books, films, and other filmmakers. Some screenplays start as books. The reasons filmmakers do this is that a successful book will already have a built-in audience. This way, the movie won't have to start with its own momentum because the book will have already built it up. Even if the movie isn't so great, people will still go and see it because they love the book. Next is casting and location scouting. Firstly, the casting director will collaborate with the director on looks and character breakdown. This casting breakdown, which is a list of specific things the director is looking for, will go to agents who will then match the actors to the character and submit their portfolios accordingly. Then actors will film their audition, which usually happens on tape, and send them in. And the director will decide who they think works best for the role. During this, location scouting is also happening. The location scout's job is to find places for filming. The location manager and the director find out what they need and send out the scouts to check out the locations. Then comes storyboarding and shot listing. These are ways directors communicate how each scene is going to be shot. This is a picture of a storyboard from Star Wars. This shows what the camera is going to capture. As you can see here, these arrows are pointing in various directions which show the way the characters will be moving. And these numbers here show the way the shots will be in order in the movie, because movies are almost never shot in order. More about that later. Directors describe how they want each shot to look, and a storyboard artist will draw it in a series of pictures. However, if a director does not have a storyboard made, they will almost definitely have a shot list. This is an example from a shot list from the famous director, Martin Wood, who is also my advisor. A shot list is a document that maps out what the camera will see during filming, such as camera, shot size, and shot type. As you can see here, Martin's shot list includes these things like B camera dolly and dolly black arm, which are the shot type and all the equipment. but also more interesting details and funny descriptive things like find angled grinder guy and make him shoot sparks your direction and pretend you're in a Terminator movie. But don't start on fire like that camera crew did. Cool directors like Martin make their shot lists fun. There are also some directors who do not use a storyboard or a shot list. Instead, they keep all their information in their head, like Christopher Nolan and Clint Eastwood, but this is pretty rare. Once the location is set, props and costumes have been found or created, the actors are cast, it is time to begin filming. Well, sort of. First, the lighting and sets need to be put up and the actors need to rehearse and block the scenes. Blocking often involves a person called a stand-in who will stand in place where the actors would be so that the director can set up the camera angles properly and check the lighting. Martin, my friend Martin Wood, you know, the famous director, he said they use stand-ins because if they used the actors, they would be standing around all day and their energy would be drained very quickly. Now, we can finally start filming. As I mentioned earlier, scenes are often not shot in chronological order, because that way they can get multiple shots in one go. Now, I would love it if someone from the audience could volunteer to come up here and help me show what I mean. Would anyone want to volunteer? Yeah, I like it. Okay, so imagine we're filming a scene and the camera is here getting an over-the-shoulder shot of you. Would it make sense for every time one of us would say something to stop and reset the camera over and over again every time we'd say something? Right, so while we're here, we'll film the whole scene and get shots 1, 3, 5, and 8. Then we'll stop, reset up from here to get a shot of me, run the whole scene again, and get shots 2, 4, and 7. Then we'll set the camera up, get a shot of both of us, run the whole scene, and get shot 6. Thank you, you can sit down now. Why do they do the scenes over and over again every time? It's to give the directors and editors plenty of footage to work with when editing. The more choices they have, the better their movie will be. On a typical production, about 5 pages of script is shot per day. This means it takes 18 to 30 days of shooting time for a feature-length film, depending on how long the script is. Even 5 pages per day is considered ambitious on most film sets. After the filming is done, then comes post-production, which involves special and visual effects, music, FX makeup, and most importantly, editing, which entails putting all of these things together. Who here's favorite part of a movie is the big action scenes and explosions? Well, those are all thanks to the people who work in visual and special effects. But what's the difference between the two? Visual effects are digital, made on a computer in post-production, such as computer-generated imagery, or CGI, which involves adding computer graphics to create images. Remember Avatar, The Jungle Book, and Game of Thrones all involve heavy use of CGI. Other cool VFX include virtual cinematography, which is used to shoot scenes from otherwise impossible camera angles and manipulate the appearance of computer-generated effects. For example, Spider-Man swinging through the city. Another one is bullet time, which is used to transform time, such as slowing down the footage and showing flying bullets. This happens by multiple cameras being placed around the filming all at the same time. This technique is very famously used in The Matrix. As you can see here, all these little black dots are cameras in a full green screen room as they film the scene, and so they're all filming at the same time. Then later, in editing, the editor will take each shot and cut it closely together to make it look like it's one thing. There are two main programs that editors use for VFX. The first one is called Maya, and it is used to create artificial images and edit together color and shading to make it look like it belongs in a scene. The editors use a program called Nuke, which allows them to put the image created into the scene and move it around. The Maya 3D modeling program was famously used in Star Wars to create highly detailed worlds, characters, and creatures. This is an example of the Maya software. As you can see here, it's creating a line and shading it, and then they would put this image that they created into Nuke, which has the shot, which has an actual shot, and they'll put the line into this shot and move it around. SFX are physical effects that happen during production, like animatronics, so the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, and pyrotechnics, like fires and explosions. Most of the time, VFX and SFX are used hand in hand. For example, a small controlled explosion on set, that would be special effects. And then later, in a computer, making cars fly out of it, making it bigger, adding smoke, that would be visual special effects. Film editing is both the creative and technical part of post-production. The editor creates meaning and feeling in a film by controlling the pace of the movie and the order the audience receives information about the plot. They also influence how we feel about events and characters. After a day of filming, the editor is given dailies. Dailies are the unedited footage that the team captures that day. The purpose of dailies are for the creative team to see the progress and check the quality of shots. If there's something wrong with a shot, they'll tell the director who can reshoot it. These dailies are given to the editors who put them in sequences right away. The first cut of the whole film that is put together by the editors is called the editor's cut. Then, the directors will look at it, and the directors and editors work closely together to create the director's cut. This process usually takes 10 weeks or 2.5 months. It is important that the editor works closely with the director because editors have huge creative input. In bigger movies, however, directors have less say and producers have more influence on the final product. The film video editor's job has changed over the years. When movies were black and white, it was difficult because editors had to physically cut the film and very carefully reattach it to change scene and angle. Now, with computers and advanced technology, film and video editor's job has become easier in some ways, but increasingly more complex, with all the detail. The film score, in other words, music, is added to a film after all the VFX are done. The process of creating film score is complicated and requires a lot of people doing a lot of different jobs. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to go through it all, but what I can tell you is that the main reason that music is added to a film is to cause emotion in the audience. Take horror movies, for example. The suspense and jump scares are scary, but mostly because the music is added. Change the music and you change the movie entirely. To show you what I mean, here's a trailer of It with very different music from the original. Was that scary? Nope. And that's it. All of filmmaking can be broken down into 3 main parts: pre-production, production, and post-production. And each of these parts are broken down into many, many specific jobs, each of which are crucial to the end product. Now I'm going to tell you about my own experience making a movie. Some of you may remember the movie Moving Boxes by Wiley Stiver and I. For the film festival. If you haven't heard of it, crawl out from under your rock and go watch it as soon as I'm done. It's a 7-minute long short film and can be found on the ISP YouTube site. I learned a lot about making a movie from this project. Firstly, that making any sort of film, even a small independent one like ours, follows the basic film process. This means it requires production, pre-production, and post-production. For the pre-production, it took Wiley 3 weeks of thinking and consulting with me to come up with a clear idea of what she wanted her film to be about. It took Wiley 3 edits, 1 month, and the help of external writer Diane Wood to finish the script. This is Wiley working on the script. Then, Kate Parker drew a storyboard in collaboration with Wiley and I, as well as we finalized all of our location plans. This is Wiley working on the storyboard. There was a surprising amount of pages for the storyboard, and it made me think, if this is how many pages there are for a 7-minute short film, imagine how much there must be for a whole hour movie. Then, we spent 4 months filming. This was the easiest part of a hard thing. It involved rehearsing scenes before blocking, a lot of cut, sorry, and a lot of improvising and going off script. We did a lot of innovating in the moment also. For example, in the original script, we had Sarah arguing with her dad as an opening. But then we realized it would be more effective if we started with Sarah talking with her brother. We realized this during the filming. While filming, we had a lot of fun messing around like this.
Next to me, you're putting up. Okay, cut.
Cut, or just keep rolling.
Cut. Then I don't want to. You do there. Hi, let's just go. I want to look directly in the camera. I'm so sorry. You should be back up.
Can we restart it?
Hey, turn around. I think we met you guys. Hey, let's just go. Yeah, I missed you at school. Back up. We didn't see each other at school.
It was fun, although later I wish we hadn't messed around quite so much because all of that footage had to be weeded through, which took me a lot of time. On one of the film days, it took us 1 hour and we got 36 shots for a 10-second part in the film. All of this was later fixed when I edited everything together, and that blooper I just showed you ended up looking like this.
Hey, what's your bus today? His weird diaper friend sit next to me and he's like, sorry, sidewalk stay. I've heard steps you put. Sorry, my phone was off. So I really gotta go. Bye.
After, I started editing. During editing, I realized 2 things. 1, editing the footage takes time, but the results are so important to make it look good. For example, in a computer, I could edit out all the background noise and match the color of the shots. And 2, we did not have all the shots we needed. Believe it or not, this was a problem. Thankfully, we had a small amount of time to get the final shots we needed. And now I knew the shots we needed to redo. Now usually, the director would get all the footage right away and let the editor would get all the footage right away and let the director know what they needed to reshoot instead of realizing it afterwards. Editing took way longer than I had expected. I had 2 weeks to edit, but even so, I had hours and hours of pointless footage to sort through. And I had to have a very careful eye and look out for small mistakes, like glances at the camera, me, or someone forgetting to take their mask off, Wiley. Overall, editing was the hardest part in the film process. All I can say is that editing is not easy. After editing and adding music, we were all done and finally relieved. Think about it. If making a 7-minute movie was hard, if making a 7-minute movie was hard, stressful, and time-consuming, imagine a full-scale movie. Seems almost impossible. But it isn't impossible, and I found out why through numerous discussions with Martin Wood and through visiting a real working movie set. Has anyone here heard of the Aurora Tigard series? It was a book series and then turned into a movie series. And I was lucky enough to go visit the 16th one called Cold Feet and a Cold Case. But before I tell you about my experience, let's talk about what it takes to make one of these movies. Let's look at the first movie in the series, called A Bone to Pick. Here are some stats about making the first movie. It took the writers 7 to 8 months to create the screenplay. The director, Martin Wood, had a shot list of 20 pages. Then they did location scouting, and it took 3 weeks to finalize all the locations. Pretty big difference from our timeline, huh? During the location scouting, another crucial part of the film process was happening: the casting. Martin Wood cast most of the roles except for Mary Lou Henner and Candace Cameron Bure. These actors were visualized when writing the script, so they already had them on board. This casting process took 2 weeks long. Altogether, it took the cast and crew 20 days of filming to complete all the scenes they needed. They shot for 12 hours every day. To put this in perspective, a regular school day is 6 hours with a variety of different activities. Now imagine doing that twice as long, doing the exact same actions over and over again. Film acting isn't easy. Post-production started the first day of filming. The editors got the dailies and started putting the good footage together right away. Editors are usually 3 days behind, so once the filming is done, it takes 3 days after for them to finish the editor's cut. Then comes the director's cut. It took the editors and Martin Wood 5 weeks to finish the director's cut of A Bone to Pick. Generally, when making a feature film, after the director gives their input on what they like, the editors make the final cut, which takes 10 weeks minimum. This includes all the other editing of sound, music, color, and VFX. I actually had the privilege to go on set with Martin Wood during filming of the 16th movie. I got to experience a regular day in the life on a film set. During this day, I learned so much. What interested me the most was how much was going on all at the same time. People were setting up cameras, checking the lighting, checking the sound, blocking the scenes, organizing the extras, doing hair and makeup, and generally just running around busily. When I watched all of this, I realized how different it was from our small independent film. The first difference I noticed between the feature film and a short film like ours is the production time. The Aurora Tigard film took 2 years from start to finish, and the short film we made took us 7 months. Of course, we weren't working 12-hour plus days, 5 days a week. It astounds me how much filmmakers work and how much of their lives they dedicate to their films. Another huge difference between an amateur short film like ours and a big feature film is the team. For our movie, we had only 4 people doing writing, planning, filming, acting, and editing. Just 4 middle school kids doing every aspect of filmmaking. And for the feature film, the team in total was 170 professionals all working together. This is 42 times my production team. That's a pretty big difference. Another difference was the equipment. They had nice big fancy cameras, dollies, sound systems, and lighting, and we had a school camera and an iPhone. But the biggest difference between the 2 films, I think, is the editing. Editing in a feature film is incredibly important, and they spend so much time making things perfect and checking all the detail. There are many highly experienced people editing and all working together using complex editing software. And in our amateur film, there was just one person, me, using iMovie. And this may surprise you all, but I'm not a professional editor. Also, instead of having a whole year to edit and go through all my footage, I had to do it all in 2 weeks. Of course, I didn't have 5,832 hours of footage to go through, which is how much the editors of A Cold Feet and Cold Case had to work with. That's 243 days, or 7 months of raw footage to sort through. Overall, making the 2 films was somewhat similar, in which they both involved the same basic steps. A whole lot of effort, but the main difference is the magnitude. The feature films are just so huge. They require many, many professionals, carefully trained, all working together to make something amazing. The whole process of making a movie goes way beyond just actors memorizing their lines and saying them in front of a camera. So much work is put into these movies people love so much, and I think it's important to really appreciate and understand the hard work happening in the background. Movies are even better once you know how much effort, how many hours, and how many mistakes and solutions it took to create such a work of art. Filmmaking is more than just lights, camera, action. It's a complex art form of teamwork and perseverance. So next time you watch a movie, just remember all the efforts that went on behind the camera. I would like to thank you, Martin Wood, my external advisor, for giving me your valuable time and enormous amount of information you taught me, as well as the opportunity to visit the film set. I would like to thank Jen Zadrill for being the best Masterworks advisor in the world and catching all my grammar mistakes. We'll miss you next year. Wiley, thank you for collaborating with me and creating such a great script for our awesome movie. I would also like to thank my parents for helping me with my presentation and being so supportive. Thank you to my class for going through all the stress with me, and finally, thank all of you for being an amazing audience. If you missed it, there's another picture of Wiley right there.
Well done, Mr. Durand.
Well done, Ms. Durand. It's now time for questions after you've done such an awesome job on your presentation. From your advisory team first. Becca. Oh, you did so well, of course. Was there any doubt? What I'm wondering is, when I first met you 4 years ago, one of the first things you said to me was, I want to be an actress. So, the question is, after all of this experience that you've had, being in the plays and doing acting workshops, going to set, seeing what it's really like on set for actors, how has this Masterworks experience changed how you feel about filmmaking, and do you still want to be an actor?
Going into this project, I did really want to be a film actor, but after all the experience, I'm kind of leaning more towards maybe directing or editing, because that was really fun in the filming and everything, and the whole movie. So, yeah, maybe not so much acting anymore, more so directing. Yeah.
Becca, that was wonderful. Thank you for the accolades. I wanted to ask you, a question that I get asked a lot is, now that you know what you know about making a film and all the process that goes into it, has it changed the way that you watch films?
Yes, actually. Every time I watch a TV show now or a movie, I notice every little mistake, as well as all the good things they do. And I can't get past the mistakes. Like, I'll rewatch it until it settles with me that that was a mistake. But then I also notice all the things where I'm like, wow, they did really interesting things with the lighting there, which I think helped the film. So yeah, I do watch movies differently now. Great.
Okay, so for question period, if you'd like to ask a question, you can come up along the back wall and we can start. Ms. Durand, when you were at the set, were you surprised by how busy everything was? It seems like, what made the biggest impression for you being on set?
Definitely how busy everything was. I was an extra on set because that's how they could get me there. So when I was in hair and makeup, there was so much going on just around me. Like, they finished the hair and they had to check with the hair and makeup designer to make sure it worked with everyone else, and there was so much going on for just one simple thing like doing the hair. So yeah, everything is so huge and so busy all the time, and it's hard to keep track, so yeah.
I really like that you did that comparison between Martin's film and yours, and I would like to commend you and Wiley and Arthur for pulling off such a great show with a 1/42 of the amount of people that are needed to pull off a big full-time show.
Yeah, it's a great movie. You should go watch it on the ISP website if you missed that.
Very, very well done, Ms. Durand. I have 2 questions for you. One, if you could act in any film, or just go back in time and act in any film, what would it be? And 2, do you have a favorite movie along with your favorite TV show?
Yeah, if I could go back in time, or if I could be in a new movie.
If you could be in a movie.
In any movie, I would definitely want to be in a Marvel movie because I love all Marvel movies, completely obsessed. Yeah, so probably a Marvel movie. And what was the other question, sorry?
Favorite movie after Zootopia?
After Zootopia, ooh. That's a hard one. I really like movies. Probably the first Iron Man. It was hilarious. It was so good.
Great job, Ms. Durand. I have a question. So, knowing kind of what you went through in editing, what are some tips you would give someone who is starting the same process? Or when?
Okay, so When I was editing, I kept re-watching everything, the whole film, once I edited all together. So at the beginning, you should have seen my computer desktop. I had all the good footage in each scene organized. So before you start putting it together, I would say organize the shots in each scene first of the good footage, so you don't have to keep going through and then refining it and putting it in. So organize it before you start putting it together, I'd say. Because I did not do that for the first bit and it was stressful. Great.
That was a great presentation. I found it very interesting. As you edited your movie, would you ever put that into an actual career? Like, and if you did, what position in editing would you like to do?
Oh, that's, I did like the editing part. And if I was to do it I would probably like to be the director of editing. So like
The head?
yeah, like, because then just having control of everything would be pretty cool. What was did I answer the first question? What was the first? Okay, good.
Cole may have stolen my question, and I feel kind of rude just walking out of the line. So I'm just going to say amazing job, and it was wonderful to see you.
Thanks, Ollie.
Through making a movie, what was your favorite part?
I think my favorite part was the filming part, like the acting in it, because although it was really hard to like edit it all together later, that process was really, really fun, and messing up was hilarious all the time, and everyone was always laughing. It was just a great time, so.
So, Mrs. Durand, I have a question for you. You touched on what you learned from Mr. Wood's set, but did you do anything? Were you involved in the making, or were you like in the backgrounds of some scenes? And was anyone else there with you? Did you really not sight?
Yes, I was actually an extra involved in many of these scenes, and there was someone else with me, but I can't quite remember their name. They weren't really that relevant. No, Connor Wood, Martin Wood's son, was also there with me through the being extras in that movie. So, yeah.
I would like to see grade 6 up here asking a question. And right now we have grade 7.
Amazing job, Mr. I thought it was really good. I would have, like, if you had to go back and tell yourself one thing before you started this project, what would you have told yourself?
The Masterworks or the making a film?
And if you have to take on writing your own movie by yourself, what do you think you'd write about?
That's hard. I think I would write about grade 9's writing a Masterworks and how stressful it was for them. What was the first question of that, too?
If you just go back and tell yourself
Right.
before you started the project, what would that say?
I would probably tell myself to start filming earlier so that I had more time to edit afterwards, because the 2 weeks, I finished a day before we presented the movies, and that was pretty stressful, and lots of late nights and skipping soccer practice for that. So yeah, I would probably tell myself to start filming earlier. Yeah.
Incredible job, Mr. Durand. What do you think was the most difficult part of editing your movie?
The most difficult part of that was probably getting all the shots consistent. And so organizing the shots was like, okay, well this one works, we'll put it in. But then getting them all consistent, the same color, the same sound, getting it to make it look like one movie was probably the hardest part. I don't know if you could tell, but in that movie clip, the sound changed quite a bit because we had a flimsy sound system. But yeah, it was kind of hard to get everything consistent, which I think was the most important part also, so yeah.
Like, what's your least favorite part of like the filmmaking process? And like if you could take it away, like what would you take away about the hate?
Well, I don't think I hate anything in the film process because it's all pretty fun. The one thing that I don't really have much of a passion for, like I don't hate it, but I don't really know much about it, is the music section. Like, yes, it brings incredible amount of feeling, but I don't think they need a whole orchestra for just an intro of a movie. So I would say that's the part I think is the most thing I don't think is super necessary. But it is super necessary because everything in filmmaking is necessary.
Hi, Ms. Durand. Incredible job. Really would love to know who this beautiful girl you keep showing is.
That one?
Yeah. But just before I ask my question, I need everyone to know that Ms. Durand was so dedicated to editing and filming and being supportive of the whole process, and it couldn't have gotten done without her. My question is, what was your favorite scene to film?
My favorite scene to film? Oh, I would say the reuniting scene at the end of the movie. If you probably don't know this if you haven't watched the movie, but at the end there's a scene where the two girls reunite after moving apart from each other, and I think filming the getting off the ferry part was really great. That was really great. Did I say that too much?
Well done, Ms. Durand. So I'm able to share some remote questions. Again, kudos to Mose, he's tuning in, your classmate. Here's a question. Many filmmakers argue that film has better quality than digital. From your research, do you agree? Why or why not?
Could you ask the question one more time, please?
Film versus digital. Like, I guess animation maybe is what he's getting at? Oh, okay.
Oh.
Right. Clarity. Martin, do you want to, are you okay?
No, okay, yes. So film versus like filming with a cam, like, yeah, okay, like digital editing. No, actually, I think that the digital filming, the new up-to-date one, is better. It has better quality because, for one, you can get so much more, there's so many more features that you can do. For example, you can easily get one scene, like say we're getting a shot of that. We can get one big shot, and then if later in editing we want to make it like zoom in, it would take so many little shots to do that, and it would be choppy with film. So I think having it digital is better and gives better quality.
Thank you. Another question from Andrea Finch. Ms. Durand, great work. When you make your next film, is there a particular piece of equipment, technology, or special effect you would like to try?
Definitely. I would definitely use a better lighting system because throughout the entire movie, Wiley and I looked like ghosts. It was great. So yeah, I would definitely try out lighting systems so to get it all even more consistent, because that's the one thing I can't do in iMovie is change the lighting of how, yeah, the lighting.
Great, and my final, before I pass the mic here, I think you've got a great future here. I really appreciate your sense of humor, and I'm going to plug the ISP YouTube channel again. If you haven't seen the amazing production, then get their ISP YouTube to win.
Well done, Ms. Durand. Did you have any experience in editing before you started your film?
Not necessarily real experience, but when I was a kid, me and my friend would make iMovies all the time and make little trailers in iMovie. So not really like actual experience, but just playing around with it before when I was younger and didn't really know what it was. So yeah, sort of.
Nice job, Mr. Ryan. Do you know like the filmmaking process of animated movies?
Like I said earlier, making any sort of film does follow all the steps of pre-production, production, and post-production, except I think they skipped the production part because it's all editing, I think. It's all like editing the characters and... Oh yeah, well so they'll do film voices. Yeah, you're right, okay. So no, it follows the exact same process.
What's the most surprising thing you learned about the film process that you do?
how long it took, actually. I knew that movies took a while to make. Like, people go like, how long would this movie take to make? And it would give like, oh, 2 years. It's like, great. It takes a long time to make movies. But I didn't know how, like, the magnitude of why it took so long. So seeing all the jobs under, so like editing is an umbrella over all these little jobs that work into editing. So I think it was surprising to see how much actually goes into that. So, yeah.
That was really, really good. And my question is, if you could go back and correct any mistake in any film you've ever watched, which one would it
be? Recently, I've rewatched the show. I've been rewatching the show Friends, and in a scene, the character Phoebe is talking, and she turns around, and they switch the camera angle. But she says a word that you don't see her say, and it doesn't sound like it's part of a sentence, and it pisses me off so much, and I could not finish that episode, so I would go back and change that just so I can watch it again.
Great job, Mr. Ann. Other than filmmaking, what was the thing you learned most about yourself during the Masterworks?
I learned that I have a lot more patience than I thought I did. Because I sort of have a short fuse and can't focus on something for too long. But with all these things occupying me, I had a lot more patience with all of it. So I learned I was more patient.
We will end with that question from Mr. Durand to Mr. Rand. And thank you, Mr. Rand, for giving us such an awesome presentation today.